Yeah, so good evening, everyone. So this is the last chapter in this book, chapter 10, The Direct Realization of the Way. And it has been quite a study, I think, for many of you and for all of us, actually. Quite a journey that is something that maybe one will undertake and start to read again after we finish this book, and certainly look into it, on occasion to remind ourselves. It's a pretty profound book, pretty dense, not easy to get, and yet it's a very simple book at the same time. It was not simple to edit and publish, I will say that. It was very difficult, and with lots of decisions that we made, and some we thought we had made, and we had to go back and redo some things. So it was very time consuming, but I think well worth what it was. And the design, I think, is really good. So, and if we look at Dōgen Zenji's writing, we see that it's his shortest one also. This chapter is very, very brief as far as Dōgen Zenji's writing is concerned. 3 short paragraphs. And so the direct realization of the way. So anybody have any particular questions that you want to bring to this to start off?
I do.
Okay, Karen.
Page 200. Jumping to the second question and answer on that page.
Mm-hmm.
Gien Roshi talks about in the big paragraph there that starts with so. If you are mistaken about this, you will give it the makeshift name instinct. So he's talking about sort of a natural, I guess I'll use the word natural, but I don't know if I really, that word never appears here. Maybe even rote movement of the body. And he refers to it that some might call it instinct. But actually, this isn't a futile thing, this thing he gives a name of instinct. Look closely at what instinct is. It is the sensual way of being. And when he was describing it, the thing that popped into my head was this like quality of autopilot, what we would say is being on autopilot.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder if a distinction can be made between this thing I think of as autopilot, where I'm doing a thing, but I'm not aware of that thing. It's a thing I do very often. And we sort of dismiss it and we say we're on autopilot. We weren't paying attention.
Right.
But the implication that I'm getting here is that that's sort of like almost instinctive movement that emerges from one's understanding of what needs to be done, almost.
Yeah. And I think he's thinking that, or it seems to me, that when he uses the word instinct, or he says that we call it instinct, we tend to think of it as something frivolous, as something unimportant. And he's saying, but that's actually the pure action. That's actually the pure activity of the Dharma, is to be in operation, certainly aware of ourselves, but not in a thinking or egoistic mode at all. We're simply truly enjoying the action of whatever it is we are doing. So
an example would be, I don't know if everyone has done this, but I've done it a lot in my life, shoveling snow. So you get shoveling snow and you get on shoveling snow and you're noticing things about the weight of the snow, your balance, where you're going to put the snow. It's all about the snow until it isn't. And then you're thinking about what you're going to do when you're done shoveling the snow and the cocoa you're going to drink and the blah, 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 the story that emerges. So is the autopilot or instinct the quality of engaging with the snow? That's the mindset that is the essential way of being.
Yes.
But is the thinking about the cocoa and what you're going to do afterward?
Well, that's a dream about the future, because it's not there yet. And you don't even know if you're going to be able to get inside from the snow yet.
Yes.
So it's a conjuring up the future and a dreaming it up, which is not the same as finishing up the snow and then walking through the snow back to the house and then going inside and taking off your coat and hanging it up and the boots and then going into the kitchen and fixing the cocoa. So I think
wonderful.
He's trying to say that we take these things as they come and we are with them in that way so that we don't jump ahead of ourselves in the activity or the action.
Wonderful. So, okay, thank you.
Yeah. Oh, and it was the same thing about the beach, going to the beach last week. We talked about that. And so being at the beach is just being at the beach and swallowing the ocean and being there and not much else, nothing else. Anything else is extra. So, yeah. But I mean, certainly, normally, naturally, you're shoveling the snow. And at some point you'll think to yourself, gosh, I think I'll go in and have a cup of cocoa. I mean, that is also just natural and normal and how we live and what it is like. So there's nothing terrible or wrong about that at all. It's just how we live and it's how the mind works. And we oughtn't chide ourselves over that in any way whatsoever.
Well, and I was thinking also of, when you're shoveling the snow, you might be thinking about other things and you might be thinking about the snow, but it doesn't really matter that you're thinking about it because the action is going on anyway, whether or not you're thinking about it. And it's like realizing that you don't need to think about it to do it.
This is
it's
true.
already being done.
This is also true.
So is that still entrusting myself to the sixth of the six senses, my thinking? So
I think it is, but it is not being with what it is you are doing. And I think Roshi is still after that part about being there with the action that we are doing. It, is what could we say, a fuller way to appreciate the activity or to be the activity itself. Because if we are thinking about something else while we are shoveling the snow, we're not so much there. Oh, that would be my answer anyway. That the issue is to not jump ahead of ourselves because the body is where it is, and we're pushing into another activity outside of what it is we are doing. So that would be my answer. Even though Allison is also correct in that the body is still doing that activity. But also in practice, are we paying attention to what it is we are doing?
And that's a huge habit for me, to lean into the future all the time, lean into the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And I miss just being with what I'm doing, and before you know it, the day is gone. And, where was I?
About that, I find that so interesting because about that very habit that many, many of us have, if we examine the nature of the body in that particular situation, the body is irritated about itself. The body becomes irritated and anxious and sort of tense to get out of what it is we are doing. And so the study of the body is still so excellent because it is the teacher. It's the only teacher we've got, actually. This is it. And so really noticing what's going on when the mind starts to do that. Try to notice the body's condition, because I think you will discover the irritation in the body itself around that. And it doesn't feel good. And so when we pull ourselves back to being with what it is we are doing, the body rests again in the activity and isn't anxious about having to go to something else. I'm not saying any of this is easy. It's not, but it's the simplicity of the body in action that is very hard for us to truly slow ourselves down enough to allow that to be the case.
Yeah, I find well, I'm sure I'm not the only one. When I initially sit, my body, I'll find sometimes my mind will wander and I'll come back, my body is completely still. But some part of my mind wants to get up and go and do something.
Right.
And sitting there with that going, okay, this is eventually going to give in. One of us are going to have to get in, is basically the nature of sitting sometimes, is somebody's going to have to give in here. I'm not giving in to the urge. And my body's just going to sit here and hold the course that I've given it, hopefully.
Right.
Yeah, that's certainly a big part of the practice, is being able to sit without your mind, telling you, oh, I sat long enough. Oh, I think I've done this. I think it's time to get up.
Yeah. Yes.
See how I always challenge myself. See how long I can resist that temptation.
Yeah.
Every day, everywhere, it seems.
It is. Let me not be doing what I'm doing and let me get on to the next thing. Well, let me be doing something else something else. Yeah.
Yeah, everything you're doing seems to be less important than what you could be doing.
Yeah. So there's an interesting thing around that. And it starts out just in the very first, it's on page 195. So the direct realization of the way, it's in the commentary, that it's the very first sentence in the commentary. And it says, the direct realization of the way is that you accept and are satisfied with just this. Oh, that's how it is. So this word satisfied comes in here. And the question is that we live in such a state of dissatisfaction continually that we must be doing something else, because we can't be satisfied with the simplicity of the actions that we discover ourselves having to do, wash the dishes or sweep the floor. We just want to get on to something else. So the dissatisfaction around the activity itself leads us to not pay attention, or to not be with ourselves in whatever action it is. So let me get on to the next thing. Let me get on to the next thing. So I really appreciated that word satisfied in that sentence, that you accept and are satisfied with just this. Now he claps his hands for that, but it means to accept and are satisfied with just this washing of the dishes, to accept and are satisfied with just sweeping the floor. And so that applies to every single activity. And to accept and be satisfied with Zazen as it is, in whatever condition we are in. And so, so this word satisfied is, I think it's an unusual meaning of it. Sometimes we talk about being self-satisfied or so satisfied with everything, but this word satisfied is wrapped in with acceptance of the moment, with what we are doing, and rooted in that moment, not rushing to the next thing.
Eido-san,
Yeah.
my big takeaway from this book is that satisfaction is a function of trust versus doubt.
Sure.
And that and I'd like to give an example. It's a little bit of a vulnerable example. I sometimes have anxiety that produces panic attacks.
Sure.
And I recently, I think under the influence of this book, have realized that sometimes I need to be, well, in your language, satisfied with the shaking of the body. And I actually will lie down and simply embrace the shaking. And usually I fight it. Because it feels like there's a dread underneath it. But there's something about saying the body is right now demanding to shake. So anyway, that's just kind of an edge for me.
That is extraordinarily courageous, Bill, because I don't have panic attacks and I don't have that kind of anxiety. Everybody's got some level of anxiety, but I don't have anything like that. But to face into that, it takes tremendous courage, because it is a frightening and awful experience for people. I know people who have it. And so I think it's very courageous to take yourself to that level of practice. I think that's fantastic. Really, really good, and difficult as can be. And you come through and you're okay. You're okay after you come through. Yeah.
Afterwards, I hear the birds sing, or I feel the weight of my body on the floor. I'm like, oh, well, okay.
That was that. Yeah, that was that. Yeah. Yeah, that's great. That's big practice. Very big practice. I mean, we're all asked to be with something like that, whatever our tendencies are or conditions are. We're all dealing with something like that if we can stand still and be with it, we can accept and come to terms with it. And that becomes major, monumental practice. So that's big practice. So, yeah.
Yeah, I don't have anything like anxiety attacks, but like everybody else, I have my little things too. And I found it's interesting when I'm going into one of those situations, whether it be somebody at work that I know is often angst inducing, is I like to sit there and watch it happen. It almost becomes a puzzle in itself to watch your body get agitated and go through all the motions. And if you can just pay attention watching it do it, it's actually quite interesting to watch.
That's right.
I don't, like I said, I don't have anxiety attacks, but I have, like everybody else, angst in my life. And
Right.
Yeah, sure. I'm sure everybody on the call's got the same situation at some level.
And that's a little bit about this book too. And as Bill is saying, do we have the presence and courage to just watch what is happening in any of those particular body situations or mental? They are together. So to be able to watch the mind operating in those conditions is fantastic experience. It breaks the clutch on us to be able to do that. It begins to lose its power over us. And so I would hope if you can do that, it minimizes as you go along. I mean, I don't know all of the physical issues of panic attacks. And I know that I simply know that I don't understand the physiology of it. So I really can't speak to it or say, oh yeah, it is going to diminish, but I would imagine that it would and hope that it would, because you face into it. Yeah. Just because you say, okay, it loses its power. So you might have some others here who are more skilled in those particular situations and who could speak to it, but I don't know. So
I'm pretty sure the literature suggests that that kind of acceptance and working through it does ease it over time. I couldn't point to any specific paper right now, but I'm pretty sure that literature does suggest it. And something that comes to mind is that's helped me. I actually had a bit of one this morning. It wasn't. It was something that helps me is that knowing that the hormones take at least 90 seconds to cycle through the bloodstream. Once that fight or flight is initiated, the flood of hormones goes through your blood. And you can breathe through it, but there's nothing you can really do for about 90 seconds, and then it'll clear physiologically.
Right.
And it really helps me just like, okay, it helps me navigate through it.
Right.
Yeah. And so that, and it was a lot of energy, right? It's basically energy. And what helped me, the train, I considered a lot of this training. And I feel like what my training has helped me do, what helped me do this morning, was to redirect the energy, either give the mind mantra, so to not spool off on negative thoughts and focus on positive, it's going to spool. So give it something useful, like a baby, right? You take away the key, you need your keys, but you got to give the baby something to jingle. Otherwise the baby's going to go nuts. So, give the baby a good mantra and redirect. I was redirecting energy into, just like as much as I could here and now, and have that try to filter off into noise, into background.
Right.
So I'll stop there, but I could say a lot.
Oh, that's great, Jason. Yeah. The most that I could speak to that is, addiction to tobacco years and years ago. It's got to be 40 years since I was a smoker, or maybe I'm 80, so maybe it's 50 years. Anyway, in stopping smoking, I learned that the urge to smoke lasts for 2 minutes. That's all. That's all. So you face into that urge, you face into it, and you feel it, and you determine that you will not respond to the smoking itself. And then it's gone. Now it comes back, many times in the day, but at the same time, the overcoming the addiction only lasts for 10 days in that particular addiction. And so that's all it takes is 10 days to overcome that kind of habit. But learning that the urge was for two minutes, and then you were past it.
Uh-huh.
It's a tremendous thing to know about the body, and to know that you could do this. I can do that. I can meet those 2 minutes 30 times a day. I can do that.
Yeah, exactly. I think having these small tools really, they're small, but they're like Bucky Fuller called a trim tab. It's that little change that helps you leverage a very large change over time.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I know that, for some people who have chemical addiction, maybe I'm being very simple about it. And I don't know that you call smoking chemical addiction or not. I have no idea. But I certainly, I was a committed smoker. You were supposed to smoke during those years anyway, right?
Nicotine's definitely chemical. There's the physiology, but there's definitely chemical.
Yeah.
Sorry to break it. Yeah.
But in any case, it's not like some other heavy duty drug addictions, I think. Although it is one of the really difficult, profound addictions, that's for sure. But in any event, that is my experience. So in knowing that you could meet that, say Bill meeting those minutes of that attack, knowing that you could do it and get through it, you can do it again.
And it's not only a matter of getting through it, it's actually trusting the body to enact its wisdom as an expression of Dharma.
Oh, that's even better. Yes. That's even better. I didn't even know the Dharma when I was smoking. So when I was quitting. But that word satisfied, being satisfied, it is an important one to understand about ourselves. And Inoue Kondo Roshi uses the issue of disappointing ourselves, being satisfied and disappointing. And we disappoint ourselves when we don't meet the challenge of whatever it is. And so to understand what that also does in the body when we are disappointed, we disappoint ourselves. So, and being able to be satisfied in understanding how the Dharma completes you and fills you and cares for you in any of those episodes. So that's big practice. Yeah. Any questions? Kirsty, you got a question? Yep.
Yeah, I was looking at, this is a different topic, but I was looking at the bottom of page 195, where it says, one is to train under a true Zen master, listening to his or her teaching. The other is to do Zazen single-mindedly. So at first that gave me a lot of hope, because I find my normal way to approach something is with my discriminating mind, right? So it says, well, you need that as well as doing Zazen. But then I also thought, I've had this experience doing Zazen when I still my mind for that moment, and it's not like pleasurable bliss, right? Like inside my soul is a fairly scary place, right? And so so I liked this as well for kind of saying just doing Zazen isn't sufficient, because you also need to learn and follow the way. So I don't know, it was just kind of bringing those pieces together for me.
Yeah. So he says in here that we need a teacher and we need practice. We need Zazen and practice, and we need both of those together. And typically we do both of those together simply so we do not get off track. And in many ways, Zazen is the teacher, and the teacher can't make you sit Zazen in any particular way. So the teacher can save you some time, and the teacher can help you not get off track on an egoistic ride, so that you stay focused on what the aim of practice is to be awakened, of course, but putting those two together are extremely important in practice development. So if we practice alone, there's the danger of going off on ourselves and thinking that we're okay. The mind is incredibly deceptive. So the need for the teacher, helps us then to avoid some of the pitfalls of practice. And there are so many. So that's what a teacher is. And there's somebody there whom you trust, and you can go to be able to allow yourself to be known. Important to be known by somebody. That's what Koben Roshi said very often. You must be known by somebody. You must allow somebody to know you very well. And that is the job of working with the teacher, so that you don't, play too many games with yourself, where the teacher sees through and helps you avoid any of those dangers in practice. So he says that we need both of those. Those are the two methods, and we need them both. So, and that's hard. And I think for Americans, the question of teacher is a difficult one. I don't know that as Americans we regard teacher in the same way that I see teachers regarding students regarding their teacher, and I only know my other experience is Japan. And I think that we are much more individualistic in this country, and we don't exactly place ourselves in the hands of a teacher in the same way that we see with practice in Japan, or let's say those who are ordained maybe have a greater connection to the teacher, or a more vowed. Maybe it's a vow that connects you to the teacher in a greater way than it does for lay people. So lay practice is really, really hard. Lay practice is hard because it doesn't demand the same things of you that somebody who wears okesa, a priest wears, okesa, a novice priest. has tremendous demands on them in relationship to the teacher, and you give yourself away to the teacher for the sake of your own development. But the American individuality is very difficult for people to rely on the teacher or to develop the relationship to the teacher that really allows us to abandon our own self to the development that the teacher asks of us. So lay practice is hard. You know, if you are ordained and you go to the monastery, all you do is live in the monastery, and you don't have to go food shopping. Well, some priests do because you need to bring in food, but you're not worried about your car or, you know, getting it repaired, and you don't have to go shopping. And I mean, it's just, you're just focused on practice. And so everything in the whole temple is directed toward awakening and practice. And so it's a very different kind of thing. And so that's why lay practice is so difficult, because, you know, look at everything that I look around the room here, and I see all of this stuff that, you know, and it's all the stuff that we own in our private life, as I own in my life, even in my apartment at Olympia Zen Center, is slavery. I am a slave to the stuff I own. And so, so that's what we do. And if you're in the monastery, you don't own anything. And as Zen practitioners, we actually don't own anything either, but we are slaves to the stuff around us. So it's very difficult practice, lay practice. So I don't know if that helps to answer, Kirsta. But both of those are essential. I know that, you know, when I found my first teacher, Koben Roshi, I'd have fallen down dead for him if he asked me to. I'd have done anything for him. And we certainly had our, you know, I had my ego appearing again and again, and we had our arguments and our frustration moments, and those were incredible to come through. So aligning with the teacher is fantastic, along with the practice of Zazen, with the commitment to Zazen. So both are necessary. Jerry's going to speak, I think.
Oh,
Okay. Well, Jerry was a student of Koben Roshi also, so he heard many of these same things and these aspects of development. And, you know, I just, looking back on me with that teacher, I can imagine how frustrated he was to say, you know, to recognize that he gave us everything. And he said that. He said, I have given you everything. What do you want? What do you want? I gave you everything. And how frustrated he would be that we would be so ignorant in the face of his enlightenment. And that was our American chutzpah coming out. So anyway, we come through all of these things, and that's how it is. That's how it is. So. Yeah, any other questions? Yeah.
This isn't a question, it's just a comment. On page 200, where there's this little exchange, it's at the very bottom of page 200.
Yep.
The exchange between the questioner and Roshi about oh, let's see, it's sort of like they're talking about enlightenment experiences.
Right.
And he says, so these stories are not useful references for us. And Roshi says, that's true. And I don't know, I just was really glad they had this little exchange,
Yeah.
because I've always felt like in a lot of ways, a lot of the enlightenment stories that we've read about are not helpful because it just sets us up for this kind of expectation. And so he's saying, yeah, basically, yeah, that's right. They're not really useful.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
No, I think that's true, Joan. And he pointed out, you could be holding on to a strap in the subway.
Right.
It could be anything. You don't know what it would be, have no idea. So I agree with you. We can, and they're very romanticized, these stories.
Yeah.
Totally romanticized. And they're usually something about a bird in a tree, or a drop of water on the stone. They're very romantic and exotic, and it's not for everybody the way it is at all. So,
or sometimes it's the Roshi takes his sandal and slaps the disciple on the side of the head or something. You ever done that, Eido-san?
I have never hit anybody like that. There was a teacher, he taught karate in Olympia, and he came to see me, and he told me the story about, actually a student had come to me, and I had answered his question, and I don't remember what it was at the moment, but I had answered his question. Well, the student didn't believe me, so he went to the karate master, and he asked the karate master the same question. And the karate master hit him over the head, just like that. And he said, did you get what I mean? And the kid says, no. He said, so what's the question? The kid asked the same question again, and he smacked him over the other side of his head. And he said, do you get it now? And the kid still didn't get it. I think he whacked him over the head again. And the kid just didn't get it. But the thing is that in America, this guy took a big chance, because there are plenty of students who will walk out and hire a lawyer for that very action. And so you don't do those things in this country. Culturally, it's very, very chancy. And you just don't want to do those things. You don't want to be sued for hitting somebody, because people would in this country. So that karate master, he said, well, in karate, it's a little bit different from Zen practice, but it's not. We take the kyosaku and we could hit with the kyosaku, but we only do that with the consent of the students. We don't run around just hitting people. So far, Joan, I haven't, but as I get really older, and I think that when I'm getting toward the end, maybe I will.
Well,
and we better be careful.
No, you can hit me anytime you like. It's not a big deal. I won't sue you, I promise.
Okay.
Everybody can be a witness.
Yeah. I've certainly had some big fights with people. I mean, that's for sure. So, yeah. And it's the job of the student to fight with you, I mean, it is. I mean, the teacher's not there to be liked. I mean, no teacher needs to be liked by anybody. It's not what it's about. Respected, yes. But it doesn't matter if anybody likes me. It doesn't matter. So, but we should all respect our teachers. That's for sure. So, and as a teacher, I do things that I think, oh, maybe that wasn't very smart, or I could have been better. I could have approached it better. I mean, that happens all the time too. You can't avoid that. So you just respond immediately the way you do because of instinct, because you see the situation and you face into it, and it can be very abrupt and can be very hard. And so you do your best, and you can't look back. you can apologize maybe, but you really can't go back. So.
I really appreciated that one story. That's my favorite one of the shoe to the head, because it was, to me, it was, oh, compassion isn't all this pastel, flowery rainbow stuff. Compassion can be, right medicine right when you need it. And it might not look like, and it was just an eye opener. I was like, oh, I dig it. It was great. And, that, and coupled with, things like with the sword of Manjushri to cut through delusion, it's, yeah, okay. So that was like, the one enlightenment story that I actually like. The other ones, yeah, I don't know if they're so useful to me.
Well, I mean, that is, the sword of Manjushri is exactly to cut through delusion. And so that's what compassion is to cut through delusion. It's not to do sweet things. Not necessarily. Sometimes it is, but one cannot say that it's only that. One cannot fear facing into something really hard that is, the heart of compassion, to say, stop that. So it can be that. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think up until, this was a while ago, up until that point, it was, it was a lot of popularization of Buddhism and not really the substance of it that I was exposed to. And so reading those, it was really eye-opening. And I can, and just to quickly, I can speak to the other point about in this culture and relationships to teachers and not having that individualist aspect. One of the ways I think of it is in this culture, it's very difficult to subordinate oneself. And I think that's a lot of it. I see it in, I can see it in teaching Go when there's a handicap is embedded in the game, and people that from another culture or who are used to these sort of things have no problem taking extra stones. But boy, some folks, they'll get all, let's play a, even game. I can play. No. You need to subordinate yourself. You need to humble yourself. You need to have the humility and humble yourself. And the be number one, pride kind of thing. It's, it's hard for that. It's hard. They don't necessarily mix. So it's
Yeah. I mean, we've got a hard culture. We really do. Individualism can be really, really hard on us, and make it hard for us to do, to have real honest breakthroughs in seeing ourselves directly. So it's hard. It's hard. Yeah.
I have a question that comes out of that same paragraph, but is a different topic. And it's later on in that paragraph. So
yep.
This question of working with the teacher so that you understand, I guess earlier he referenced it as the diamond understanding, being able to tell a diamond from a piece of glass.
Yes.
And so here he says, as the practice goes on, you will realize this is truly the existence of great movement without your usual way of thinking. However, if you have never heard of this kind of thing, then even if it were to happen, you couldn't know what it is. It would only be that, and there would be no realization. And so, am I to understand that one could have, language is very hard here, the experience of realization without it actually being realization because you aren't aware of what it is, the thing that you're experiencing?
Yes, of course.
Okay.
Yeah. You haven't, been gifted with or you haven't met the Dharma yet. I mean, I think that's what he is after saying. But I have a little bit of a wide view on that. I don't think it's only Buddhist Dharma that brings about realization. I feel that can come if one has developed oneself spiritually. It would certainly come about, that realization would come about in through another tradition all the traditions have some form of realization in them. So I want to say that I think that's there too, and not only in Buddhism. He might disagree with me in that at various places in this book, but it's where I am with it. that I don't deny other traditions and their value and ability to bring about realization. So, but, you know, if you don't know what something is, it just goes past you. Or if you haven't developed to be able to listen appropriately, listen deeply, it will just go past. So that is true. So, I mean, you know, certainly until I started reading in the Dharma or reading anything about realization or awakening and so forth, I would not have recognized it. I wouldn't have known. And it happened that I got a terrible, terrible pneumonia. I was very ill, and somebody at my workplace brought me the Zen teachings of Huang Po to read while I was sick. And I read it and I was just totally sucked into it. I mean, it was the thing that finally I got through, because I had a terrible pneumonia that I couldn't get past. They couldn't find the right antibiotics for me. But you know, that was it. You know, I was on the way, but I would not have recognized it prior to that. So. Well, the other things, you know, some ideas don't come to you until somebody suggests something and they say, oh yeah, that's not a bad idea. So, yeah. Though, of course, we have to wonder what things are going past us even now in our lives. What goes past us that we don't see? Many, many things, I think, many opportunities, many, 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 many things. So.
Well, I've told here the story of riding on Space Mountain at Disneyland and getting on Space Mountain and just having a really, like, this was after I'd given birth. So it was about a year and a half after giving birth. And I got on Space Mountain, and I'm not a big amusement park person, but it's all dark in there, you know. And you get in your little carriage and it just goes. And you just realize, I mean, for me, I realized this is like giving birth. I had no control whatsoever over what was about to, my body was about to experience.
Right.
And I went through natural childbirth, and anyway, and I remember linking the two at the moment, like Space Mountain. And it was this sense of surrender, really. Yeah. It was the sense of surrender that I think you have to have in childbirth, and in my case, grudgingly. But on Space Mountain, it was just like right there, like right away. It was like, there's nothing I can do, and I might as well just like totally be into this and enjoy it.
Yeah.
So fast forward a number of years, and I got on a plane. I'm on a plane, and there's some turbulence. And I had the same experience where I was like, well, there's really nothing I can do. I'm not flying this plane. I just got to be here with this turbulence. And so I don't think I would have recognized the thing on the plane were it not for Space Mountain. And I wouldn't have recognized Space Mountain probably if it hadn't been for giving birth.
Yeah.
And so when you said there's probably things going on right now that we're not aware of, that came to my mind.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I certainly know about resistance. When I was about to have my first baby, I went in and I had a 10-pound, 14-ounce baby. So I was out to here. But I went into the hospital and I said, I am sorry. I am not going to have this baby. I'm not going to do this. So, I'm just not going to do this. Doctor, he was there. He's okay. So I'll just help you sit down here. I mean, it was a big thing to do, Karen. So I know what you're talking about is to finally, of course, I finally gave into the whole thing, but I also took some time. Took a while to get there.
You have no choice in the end.
No,
really.
of course not. Of course not.
No. And that becomes, may I say, painfully apparent.
Oh, yes. Oh, my goodness. My goodness. Yeah. But that issue of surrender, again, that's not one that we particularly care for in our American culture. And so while the interesting thing is that, students have a resistance to the teacher about the issue of surrender, but I think we don't understand as students that the surrender is not to the teacher, but to ourselves. It has nothing to do with the teacher. It's all about us seeing ourselves in the mirror of Dharma. And so, but we think that person sitting there in the Dokusan room is, I'm to surrender to that person. And it's just not the case. It's to our own development, and to understand there's no separation of student and teacher, and no separation of student and teacher is within us. There is a physical teacher that we see, and there's a physical student whom we are both, but we are each both. The teacher is also a student, and the student is also a teacher. And so understanding that both of those reside in us is really important in the notion of surrender. It's to ourselves and we surrender the ego attachment is what the surrender is truly about, ending that attachment. And, why, I just say, why not? Because we are so liberated from the constraints that the egoistic mind brings and does to us. So to surrender that within ourselves, it's nobody else. So it's all our own work. Yeah. Gilda, are you feeling okay? Gilda?
Am I feeling okay?
Yeah.
At work, I'm feeling it's the end of my day, and I so want to be here for this discussion.
Oh.
No, I'm just thinking, but I'm at work. I have a
Okay.
No, I'm fine.
Okay.
Do I
All
look?
right.
A
Yeah, you
little off?
look tired. You don't look like yourself tonight, and I just felt like I wanted to ask if you're okay.
You're so kind. Thank you, Eido. I'm fine. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Good. I know you're wrapped in a blanket all around your shoulders too, so I just wanted to be sure you didn't have a cold or something. Yeah.
Oh no, this is actually a fashion statement of sorts. These are the little things you can buy at stores, So
okay.
Yeah.
Well, we really can't see much of a picture, so we can only see a little bit. But anyway, I'm glad you're well. I'm glad to hear that. Yeah, and thank you for staying on, for staying.
This is wonderful. Thank you. I don't have my book with me, so I can't reference.
Yeah. So my friends, we've come to 1 hour, and I've really come to feel that 1 hour is really good for us. I hope you agree. We don't get tired, and it feels, like a good conversation, and we don't overdo it. So,
Yes.
so we're just about there.